Welcome everybody to another interview in our series of interview of our Spokane County GOP endorsed candidates. We've got Semi Bird here with us today. Semi, thank you for being with us.
Great to be with you, MJ. Always, my friend.
Yes, and Semi, of course, is not just our Spokane County GOP endorsed. He's also the Washington State endorsed candidate. He got a 72% of the delegate vote in April at the state convention. And so, again, we're excited to have him. And I just want to remind everybody, too, make sure you get your ballots in and vote this primary. Ballots should be dropping any day. I know in Spokane, some people already have them. So please fill out your ballots. And we hope this interview will inform you a little bit more to help you make your decision. So Semi, tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, and why you are running for this important position in Washington State.
Yeah, no, I started off from humble beginnings. I was born in the inner city. We come from East Oakland, California, and single mom with 7 kids. She was amazing. Mom moved us to Seattle, Washington, where I was raised when I was 6 years old. So I've been a Washington citizen since I was a little boy, raised in Seattle. Mom raised me on values and faith and understanding that self-worth and understanding self-respect and self-esteem and never giving up, always moving forward, understanding right from wrong, and always trying to do your best. That's how she raised me. And she was such a loving, caring, and forgiving woman that she made it easy. And I did. I always tried. And that's part of who I am as a man. Never give up, never give in, and always try to do the best I can and do best for others as well. My mother was just a loving person, and I think I get a lot of that from her. Growing up in Seattle, in school, K through 11, I struggled, terrible grades. I dropped out of high school, joined the Marine Corps, served 2 enlistments, got my honorable discharge, but I also got my high school diploma, and later went and got my bachelor's degree in business administration, 4.0 summa cum laude in business administration. And so did well. I got my graduate degree from Villanova University, Master of Science degree in Human Resource Development, follow on an advanced certification in Human Resources as a professional in Human Resources, finishing up my PhD in Organizational Psychology. I have a certificate from UCLA in entrepreneurship, some other certificates in behavioral science and psychometric assessment, leadership, decision-making, etc. I love knowledge. I love learning. I love growing. I listen and I learn from other people as well. And it's part of my nature. And I've been that way my entire life. I later, after 9/11, found myself volunteering to join the Special Forces Regiment and became a Green Beret at the young age of 43 years of age. And I was one of the oldest in history of Army Special Forces. I was a Special Forces engineer, which Special Forces in demolitions, but also civil engineering and construction. We're trained in vulnerability assessment and analysis, understanding infrastructure such as port security, nuclear facilities, dams, power infrastructure, substations, power transmission, things of that nature. Acquisitions, contract procurement, because we're responsible for building and development in foreign soils, bridging, a lot of things that, well, the government does, contracts, et cetera, on bridges, roads, horizontal and construction on capital projects. I later went into Special Forces Intelligence. I worked my way up from a Special Forces A team on doing intelligence to operational intelligence to working out of embassies with multiple embassy agencies, many of them, all of them. I found myself doing counter human trafficking, counter narco terrorism, counter nuclear proliferation, tracking drug dealers and crime syndicates all over the world. I was proficient in 3 languages. I'm going to put English as one of them, and Spanish and Mandarin Chinese. China is a country of study, and obviously the cartels were as well. South Central America. Gosh, what else? Left military, went from active to National Guard, took a job with the U.S. Department of Energy, and I worked my way up there as well to a GS 14 out of 15 federal director. I was the federal director of organizational development, specializing in performance improvement. And then I retired as the director of training and leadership development for the Department of Energy here at the Hanford site. I taught at WSU. I was the Associate Director of Professional Development and Community Education, teaching the leadership curriculum that I wrote for WSU. I left WSU and became a consultant. So doing much of what I did for other agencies and universities, I taught leaders how to be better leaders. I consulted for corporations how to become better performing, more fiscally responsible corporations. I helped them to develop strategy to take steps towards excellence. I know ledgering, budgeting, doing assessments. I write assessments, I write surveys. And so just all facets of business and business operations, Lean, Six Sigma methodology, human performance improvement. I know I can get geek on that, but it's my love, it's my passion. And, I retired for this endeavor to run for governor, but there were some things that led up to this. I was never going to get into politics. My wife and I have done everything together. We plan everything together, and politics was not it. But when they shut down our state and they shut down our schools, our places of worship, our businesses, and I had a construction company that I ran, and I was affected by labor and industries and the shutdown right in the middle of some of my projects. I had another company, my consulting company, and I have a real estate investment firm. And every single one of my companies was affected. I had employees that I had to make payroll for, and that PPP didn't help me at all. And it was difficult. I was paying for a very nice office building and equipment, and it was not enough to sustain. But I kept going and moving forward like many other businesses. And so I understand the strains and the rigorous test and obligations that small business owners go through because I did it. And so between that and then shutting down schools and my daughter coming home with a laptop. And so I said, well, no, this is not right. And masking our children without giving parents a choice. I said, well, I need to run for school board director. And I won that race. I became a school board director, and I kind of rocked the boat because, as I said, a mandate is not a law, and our constitutional rights must matter. And so I took a motion, made the motion, led the motion to bring choice so that parents can make a decision on what is best for their children, as it should be. And we did other things. We passed a policy in our school district that said we will teach civics, not critical race theory. We passed a policy that said we will form a parent advisory committee so that parents had a voice and choice in their children's education. We created a strategic plan and so much more, MJ. And I don't want to keep talking your ear off, but that's how I got into now running for governor. We continue to put these career politicians up to run in positions, should be positions of service to we the people. But they're not coming from the community. They're not coming from we the people. And they're being brought forward by the wealthy elite, the establishment. And that is not what a constitutional republic calls for. It calls for those of us of the people, by the people, and when elected, in service to the people. And that is something that I feel strongly about. And that I said to myself and my wife, who's my first endorsement, that this is something that we would do. We would be here to provide servant leadership, acknowledging our constitutional rights, our American values, and bringing those protections for the people.
That's fabulous. There's so much in there, Semi, that makes you the best candidate, in my opinion. I could go off, but we're not here to get MJ's opinion. We're here to hear from you. But
Thank you.
thank you for standing up for our children, most of all,
Absolutely.
because I applaud you for what you did. You are a champion, you're a leader. You took you took, I don't want to say bullets because of what just happened, but you
Yeah.
took a lot of flack for standing
Yeah.
up for that. And we need courageous leaders like you that will not be afraid of what the narrative is and stand up to that. So I applaud you greatly for
Thank
doing
you.
that. And I know that's the leader that you are. So
Thank
you
you.
talk a little bit, you already mentioned this a little bit about, you over some of your opponents, but why, Semi, should our citizens vote for you over your other opponents in this race?
You know, Really, it comes down to voting for a politician or voting for a statesman. In the early days of our founders intended for us to have representation of us, we the people, and that representation would be statesmen who understood that they were in service to the people because constitutionally, and under Article 1, Section 1 of our own Constitution, where it says that power is inherent in the people and that governments derive their just powers from the consent of we the governed, and their job is to protect and maintain the individual rights of we the people. And so the separation for me between myself and Bob Ferguson or myself and Dave Reichert is simply I'm here in service to the people, which is why I'm not beholden to big money donors. When you see a candidate show up and they have all the establishment of their parties backing them, all the big money donors of their parties backing them, we, the people, must use our own darn common sense and figure it out. It's right before us. This is preordained by the establishment to say this was our person. Just like with the Democrat Party, it was a pay to play. And so they said $1 million. And Mark Mullet, the respected Democrat senator, also running for governor, so in the top four, Mark said, I'm not going to pay to play. And he's a conservative Democrat established senator in Washington state. But yet Bob Ferguson, because he had all those millions of dollars, he does go along to get along. He has all those big endorsements, not from we the people and not from the individual county parties, but from the establishment. Bob got the nod. Whereas with the Republican Party, we did it differently. And I'm very proud, mostly of our citizens, our counties, because we came up with this idea of a convention that from the caucus level, from the precinct caucus level, to which I am a precinct committee officer, we went to that caucus and then we said, who will we elect to go to the county caucuses? And then at the county caucus level, we said, who are we going to elect to go to the convention for this state? And we held a convention and we had the largest showing of delegates, elected delegates representing the people from every county of all 39 counties of our state, duly elected to represent thousands and thousands of people. And they showed up in Spokane. And in Spokane, the largest gathering of delegates ever noted in the history of Washington state, both Democrat Party and Republican Party, those delegates, as you noted earlier, gave us that 72% supermajority, and it was a vote of the people in representation of the people from their precincts, from their counties, and from their areas. And I am honored to have that. And that defines the key difference. Dave Reichert, conversely, he turned on his own delegates, did not show up at the convention, instead said, I no longer want the Republican Party endorsement. I no longer want to play ball, and did not sign a pledge. Whereas I signed a pledge that said, if Dave Reichert shows up like I am showing up and everyone else showed up, and Dave wins those delegates' confidence, then I would step aside and I would endorse and support Dave Reichert. That's what I was prepared to do. And I actually signed a pledge to do that. Dave didn't do that. And so the reason I'm bringing this up, it's not to bring shade on Dave, because I've never done that. I don't call names, as you know, and everybody else knows. I don't do dirty politics. We've never done it. And so it's to point out the mindset, a mindset of service for the greater good. And that's what I'm trying to say. That is some of the key differences. I'm not a go along to get along candidate, number one. I'm not bought and paid for. I'm not owned. I have no obligations to donors or an establishment hierarchy. I'm truly a servant of the grassroots, the people. And if you believe in our constitutional republic, then I pray, if you find me to be qualified for the position, that you will vote for me this primary. And MJ, I have to say, if you don't mind, I think the greatest psyop or scam that has ever been perpetuated in American soil is that to convince voters to be helpless, to convince them that it takes money over your vote, power, and support from those establishment politicians over your vote. And what I mean to say is this: if enough of us stand united for our values, to protect the innocence of our children, to vote for a candidate that we believe in our heart is the right candidate to do our bidding, to do our will, to protect us, to enforce our constitutional rights, then we will win, because we, the people, have the power. We have the vote. It's not about the money, it's us. So think about this. I could run 500 commercials every 5 minutes, but if every single citizen is going out there to vote based off of what they're reading on that ballot pamphlet, based on what they know because they've done their due diligence and research, this is called self-governance,
Exactly.
then I will win because the people chose me. It wasn't bought with money because of commercials and advertising. I hope that makes sense.
Oh, it makes so much sense. And Semi, this is why you are we the people candidate. You're grassroots. You describe the process. I mean, our slogan has been, it doesn't get more grassroots than this. And
Yes.
that's why as precinct committee officers, which I am too, that's our neighborhoods. Was out there in our neighborhoods today, talking to people, knocking on doors, sharing our endorsed candidates with them. And that's what we do. We're a representative form of government. We represent the people in our neighborhoods
Yeah.
to our county, then the county represents it to the state. And then that's the process you said. We put that in place so that it's connected to we the people. It's not this elite group out there that
Yeah.
is handpicking, because of special interests. So it really is the right process. And I'm proud of that process.
I
And I'm
am too.
proud to stand, next to you and as our endorsed candidate, both in Spokane and in the state. So, Semi, let's talk a little bit about your policies, because I think as much as you are the we the people candidate, that makes you so exciting. It also is your strategic thinking and plan and vision for our state. We are in dire straits in our state, and especially where I live, 30 minutes away from the Idaho border. We have a clear distinction of the different policies here. It
Yes.
costs our home builders $80,000 more to build the same house in Washington or in Spokane than it does in Idaho, things like that. So let's talk about what's your plan to address like the most pressing issues facing our constituents, and maybe just highlight a few of those for us that are most top of your list, such as illegal immigration, cost of living and inflation, or crime and education.
Yeah, and I'm going to be specific and I'm going to go fast because, as you know, and many others know, I can be long-winded. One of the differences between me and the other candidates is I'm very scientific. So think about what I'm going to say over this next 6 hours. I'm kidding. Don't be afraid. Uh, but note that it will not be political. It'll be scientific. It'll be policy. That's not any political party. You were talking about construction, building, the fact, and it's accurate, that in Idaho, the regulations are significantly different. The permitting time significantly different. The building codes significantly different. Because I have a background in construction and building, I understand it. And so therefore, in Washington state, noting and understanding that we have a housing cost crisis. And why do we have a housing cost crisis? Inslee would say we have a homeless crisis because what's a matter of homes or housing? Wrong. It's not. It's addiction and mental illness. And we'll talk about that momentarily. But let's talk about affordable housing, because that goes directly to the economy. Senior citizens are being taxed out of their homes. Young people can't afford to find or rent a decent apartment without having to live six deep in one, or ever being able to own their own home like many of us do. That is because we have a shortage of housing units on the market. That is a statistical fact. And what you alluded to saying is that not only do we have a shortage of housing units, the reason we have a shortage of housing units is because the cost of housing units is exorbitant in Washington state. And now the root cause. Why? Energy codes. Energy codes are off the charts. Specifically, we have ERV ventilation requirements in Washington state. We have EV, electric vehicle requirements in Washington state. And without going specific, because I can, from a civil engineering background, I can go specific to tell you the conduit and all their requirements and the cost, just of those two things I mentioned. The new water heater requirements for Washington state. It's too much, all for this climate change. That's what they're doing. And they're penalizing us. So here, Washington state is having to acquiesce to these climate change ideology, which is raising these energy code standards that is pricing home builders out of the market and people not being able to afford a home or an apartment. It makes no sense. We are going to lower those energy codes back to Energy Star efficiency standards, which were above and beyond enough. Back in 2008, we were right there. We were doing well. We are going to lower those energy standards, and so that we can make building homes and apartment units in Washington state affordable again, so that builders can afford to build high quality, high efficiency homes and pass those savings on to the consumers, so young people can afford an apartment, senior citizens in a fixed income, and veterans in a fixed income can afford an apartment, and also maybe afford a home as well. That is good for the citizens. It's good for our economy. And we're talking about the economy. Just last week, I rolled out my economic reform solutions with actions. One of the things we're going to do on day one of my administration, I will call for a third-party audit of all state programs and all state offices, specifically to understand where every single penny and every single dollar is going. Just like accounting standards and IRS standards, every revenue stream dollar has a coding to identify the money coming in, where it's coming from. Every expenditure has a coding. Where is the money going? What the state does is they put the money into a general fund and they stop doing good accountability. Well, first we have to find out where the money's going, and then we need to understand, how are those departments performing? How are they spending the money? Because if they're not performing to a standard, if they're not wisely spending our money, which we know they're not, why? Because this administration, Jay Inslee, has doubled our budget to $71.5 billion in just 10 years. Doubled the budget to $71.5 billion in just 10 years. Spending billions of dollars on homelessness, and it is up 23%. We have been paying gas tax for decades for us adults our entire life, and that money goes towards roads and bridges. We know what our roads and bridges looks like. We are $1 billion in debt currently on roads and bridges in Washington state, and the Department of Transportation says they need that money now because they're in desperate need of repair now. That does not just happen overnight. They have no strategy. They have no strategic plan. What have they been doing in terms of maintenance over that period of time? So we're not spending our money wisely. This assessment will identify all that, get us to the root cause, so that someone like me with a background, a professional background in performance improvement, who actually knows how to remove waste, who actually knows how to improve performance, can bring in the mechanisms and the interventions to improve government performance, so that we can stop taxing all of you citizens, all of us citizens, extraordinarily so, give you tax relief, and shrink government. So we're going to be more effective. Some of the things I said, and I'll move on to the next thing. There's so much I can say.
Yeah.
We are going to make it a requirement that all state offices, Department of Transportation, Department of Social and Health Services, Department of Commerce, Ecology, all of them, it'll be required that they have a 5-year strategic plan. Every strategic plan for every year will have performance goals. Each goal will be specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, measurable, and a timestamp. So what are you going to do? How are you going to do it? How are we going to measure it? And when are you going to get it done by? And then we're going to put it up on a website so all of you can see what the heck we're doing with your money, so that you know we are performing just like any good business. You guys are citizens of the board of directors. You are shareholders in the state's government and how it's being run. So this is what we're doing differently. And for growers, ranchers, and farmers, the Department of Commerce and Ecology, Labor and Industry, they will no longer be weaponized against
Mm,
you. They work for you, and they will be given those instructions. They work for me as your next governor. I don't need legislation to move forward on this. And so, no more weaponization of government. It changes. They work for you. You don't have to fear them. They are there to serve you. No more fines. You'll get a warning. They will help you come to a standard. And by the way, we're lowering and reversing those regulations. So there's the economy.
that's
And by
huge.
the way, MJ, the most beautiful state in the nation, Eastern Washington, Central Washington, Western Washington, we should be the tourist capital this side of the Mississippi, bringing in hundreds of millions of dollars of other people's money. They come here, they spend their money, and then they leave, just the way we like it. And then the film industry, who used to come to Washington State to film hundreds of millions of dollars, but they don't come here anymore because we've made it prohibitive. We don't incentivize it. I can go on and on. So
Yeah,
there's some economic stimulus that,
yeah,
just to give you an example of what we're going to do. If we can talk about our education system for a moment, our education system, only 50.9% of all students met grade level standards for English and language arts. Only 37.7 make grade level standards for mathematics, and only 41.9 or 42 make grade level standards for science. But we were graduating them at an 83% rate and a cost of $690. So we were not getting the return on our investment of money.
right.
So academically, we were failing our students, but we would continue to graduate them and at an exorbitant cost. $71.5 billion is our budget. Education is 44% of our state budget. We're not getting our money's worth
Right.
from our education system. Our children and our grandchildren deserve better. Article 9 of our state constitution requires that we provide that education, a quality education. So I will be showing up with an education reform bill that will require all school districts across the state to have a strategic plan with a central focus of giving teachers back their classrooms. That central focus starts in the classroom, the epicenter: student, teacher, parent. That will be that three-legged stool that we will focus and resource. We find out how that student learns so we can meet that student with the resources that he or she needs. We find out what that teacher needs so we can meet that teacher with the resources that he or she needs to teach that student. We engage parents at all opportunities because all empirical studies and science tell us when parents are engaged in their children's education, child learning outcomes improve exponentially. So this is the recipe for success. I can bore you with learning theories like Orton Gillingham's scientific approach to reading, structured literacy, Wilson. We know what we need to do. It'll be written into that education reform bill, but we are going to give them an opportunity through strategy to improve academic performance. And the focus is, again, not on ideology in schools, but academic excellence in
Yes.
our schools, not bringing clinics in our schools, but bringing our parents and grandparents into our schools. It is a difference. And we're going to focus on funding special education in our schools and honoring those learning plans that we start the year in and finishing off. We're going to get those teachers a partner, a para-partner in the classroom. We're going to get a handle on the behavioral crisis that we have in the classrooms that no one ever talks about. So that is just a beginning, a taste of what we're going to do with education reform in Washington. Academic excellence. Our school system in Washington State will be the academic center of excellence for the nation. And then
Yes.
now let's move to law and order. We have a problem in Washington State. Under Bob Ferguson's lack of leadership and proper management, the chief law enforcement officer of the state. Rape is up 51%. Property crime is up 73%. Murder's up 97%. We're number 3 in the nation for auto theft. We're number 1 in the nation for retail theft. We're 7th in the nation for the most dangerous state in the nation. Chop and Chaz, that is Bob Ferguson's legacy. So for folks out there who are on the fence and we're talking about Bob Ferguson, Dave Reichert, and Semi Bird, understand this. Once we win the primary, Bob Ferguson, Semi Bird, Bob Ferguson's record in and of itself
Oh,
is enough for anyone with common sense to understand this is not a person that you want to represent you as the chief executive officer of this government, because his piece of the government as attorney general, he failed miserably.
right.
And the statistics and the facts don't lie. And currently, he's under investigation to be sued approximately $42 million for improprieties of contract and acquisition. And WSU has been dragged into this. They were one of my last clients, and as you know, I worked for them, and I actually know acquisition, procurement, and contracts. The acquisition career management program fell under my division when I was a director at DOE. So I know, as your next governor, procurement, acquisition, and contracts, I will not find myself being sued. And in fact, we will improve how we do acquisition, procurement, and contracts, and we will save billions of dollars. Washington State spends billions of dollars every single year in procurement and contracts. Bob is right there in the middle of it. Jay Inslee is going to be right there in the middle of it once we get done with this audit, and so will a lot of others elected officials. I have no doubt of it. But we're going to improve the processes in Washington State.
Yeah.
And so when we talk about these different candidates, we need to think about what are they bringing to the table. And folks will say, well, Dave Reichert was a sheriff. Well, Semi Bird was a federal officer. We're going to compare law enforcement badges or qualifications. As governor, you're not going to be going out in the streets and arresting people. You need someone who has strategic level knowledge of law enforcement. And it's not arresting people in the street. It's going after those cartels. We have 3 cartels in Washington State. I'm the most qualified candidate running for governor to go after the cartels. My friends, I can take a laptop. I know the software. I know the methodology. I know the relationships. I know how to target cartels. I know how to target crime syndicates. I know how to go after those human traffickers and sex traffickers. I have done it. I am experienced at it. And so you want to talk about interdicting drug problems? I'm your guy. You want to talk about joint interagency task force to deal with the problem? I'm your guy. I'm qualified and experienced to do the job. But let's remember, we are a port state. China is a national security threat to Washington State. Not only should we prevent China from ever owning any land in Washington State, let alone our farmland, we will be bringing a bill, by the way, January 25, to reverse that. I will propose a bill
So
to
important.
proactively reverse all of China's ownership of any land in Washington State. They're going to have 120 days to sell it, fair market value, or we're taking it back. It's
Yeah.
a national security threat. But if we don't understand that the Asia Pacific is a trade partner, at the Asia Pacific that I have worked in for many, many years, China, who I understand as a national security threat, who I have worked, well, I will say developing intelligence and understanding the threat that they propose, I'm uniquely qualified to protect this state. I am a consultant on border security. I know what the heck I'm doing. So law enforcement, we're going to value, respect, and love our law enforcement officers, men and women who put on the badge. I will sign a resolution on day 1, putting those words to paper, and then we're going to ensure that we honor and protect them so that they are not liable for doing their job. They should not fear going out to do their job. They will have the protection and the support of their governor in doing the job. And then we need to recruit. We have the lowest number of law enforcement officers of any state in the union. That is a shame. We need to fix it. I am certified in recruiting and retention. As a consultant, I have done this for many corporations, for many companies, and for many organizations. I know how to develop strategy for recruiting and retention. And we're going to start with universal reciprocity, a peace officer license. So if you come from Dallas or Florida, your license will be good in Washington State, and we're going to go out, recruit, and then we're going to bring bonuses to keep our people in place and then to recruit new people to serve in uniform.
Wow.
MJ, I'm talking nonstop. I
I
want to give
know
you a
you
chance to
are,
get a word in
you have
edgewise.
so much knowledge and so much strategy, and and everybody can tell, I hope, through this, screen, how knowledgeable you are. I,
Thank
I
you.
definitely recommend everybody go. I mean, on one of these subjects, somebody could probably go hours on, because he's thought so much and such a strategic thinker and has so much experience that you bring to the table. Please go to Semi's website to see those plans that you have prepared in place. You have a plan starting on day one of how we're going to change the state. Basically, I mean, we know, as you outlined, we're at the top of the list on these abhorrent lists that we should never want.
Yeah.
We never want to be the top of, right?
Mhm.
So we need to recognize that if we're going to change things, the definition of insanity is to keep voting the same way we've been voting. We
Yes.
all feel it. We know we are on the wrong trajectory. And so we know we've got to change how we're doing it. Is the man with the plan. He's the man of we the people. At the corner of everything, at the center of everything is the people, and how this is playing out to the people. And that's why I believe you are the best candidate. Semi, we need to wrap up here. And I know I want to respect your time as well. Semi, even though you are running as a representative, I think it's important for people to know, even though that you're running as a Republican, why are you the best candidate for all the citizens?
It's the Constitution. That is the foundation of my governance, and it's not about party. President Washington warned us about partisan politics, and since putting my name in the hat to run for governor, it has come crystal clear. It must be about the Constitution. It must be about the people. It must be about the values and the tenets of America. And that's that concept of America first, putting America first, American values first, American citizens first. And it's the same thing for Washington, putting Washington citizens first. So that is why we should say to the citizens of Washington State, there's nothing to fear here because I may have an R behind my name. The reason there's an R behind my name, because I'm a Reconstruction Republican, civil rights, women's rights, all the things that the Republican Party has always stood for, the same party that ended slavery. That is what I believe in. A new beginning, a reconstruction of our state to make Washington the best it has ever been. And now is our opportunity to unite all religions, all colors, all cultures coming together for common sense for our children, for our grandchildren, for our own businesses. If we stand together for policy and a better Washington, we can be the change that we need. That has nothing to do with party or politics, and it shouldn't. It should be about we, the people in our beautiful state, and ensuring that our future generations have a home and can afford to live here.
Amen. And I want to stay here in this state. I feel called to stay here in this state. Yes, Idaho is 30 minutes away, but I am called to stay here and
Amen.
turn this around. And I know you feel the same way, Semi. And
Amen.
thank you for running, because you have put your life on the line and taken all
Absolutely.
these arrows to do this. And you didn't have to do this. You're retired. You could have be
Mhm.
off doing something else. So final comments to our constituents, and also why is it so important that they vote in this primary?
Oh gosh. So MJ, we're at the precipice right now, and this is not fear because all of you know I'm about hope, right? I don't do the fear. We don't do the dirty politics. We don't call names. We're about facts, science, and hope. What we can do, the beauty of America, what we believe in, what we stand for, right? That is what we are about. But we must vote. Those ballot pamphlets came out just the other day. Our ballots are coming in the mail every single day. Now, some of you may already have your ballots. I'm telling everybody, they put us last on the ballot. I think we're number 30. So you don't have to look in between. Just go to the very bottom and you're going to find us last on the ballot, first for Washington.
That's right.
My wife said they saved the best for last, but she's biased. She loves me and I love her. But this is our time. This is our time to stand united for a better future for our children and our grandchildren. Vote now, vote early. What I had a friend do, take a picture of your ballot that you're signing it, put it on social media, let everybody know I voted. Call your friends, call your cousins. If you have a 17-year-old relative who is going to be 18 years of age before the general election, they can vote in the primary. So do not wave off or hold off. Vote early, vote now, so we can use those numbers. We will track those numbers. We will let you know how things are going. It's going to be just like the convention, you guys. It was beautiful. It was fun. It was exciting.
Yeah.
When you can see the power of the people, it'll be the same thing in the primary, and we'll celebrate it. And then after we win the primary together, we're going to continue to grow our movement across the state. MJ, I have to say this. It'll take me less than 30 seconds. Friends, if you don't already know this, we have been campaigning every single week in Seattle, Washington, Tacoma, Snohomish County, all up and down the I-5 corridor, people in the inner city of Seattle, Washington. We have people from all demographics that are excited, pumped up, and motivated. So what you don't see, I want you to know, there are people who never vote Republican who are voting with us, who are out there advocating for us on hip hop radio and on TikTok channels that you would never see them vote for a Republican, because just like your last question, MJ, they believe. And this is the time, a revival of faith, a revival of patriotism, and a revival of hope in one another and in Washington.
Yeah, very awesome. We're excited, Semi. And I know you're going to be in Spokane here in a couple days on Monday,
Yeah.
the 22nd, out at Freeman High School at 6 o'clock.
Yes.
That's new to report. And then
Yeah.
also in Spokane as well on Tuesday, the 23rd at 6 o'clock. Those details will be on posted on our Facebook page. So you can go there, come see Semi for yourself, come ask him your questions for yourself. Semi, thank you again. Tell people where they can go to engage with you and also donate to your campaign.
Yes, please go to birdforgovernor.com, BIRDFOR governor.com, birdforgovernor.com. You can donate. I mean, even if you give $5, it helps. We are going to amp up our advertising. So you're going to start seeing a lot of commercials for us. Have hope. Give what you can, volunteer what you can do, sign wave. And I have to say, for all of you in Spokane County and surrounding counties, you guys have been a leader in this state, and I cannot thank you enough. You are part of this history, and you are leaving a legacy for others to follow. MJ, you as a leader, you are encouraging, you are inspiring. I couldn't be more proud to be your friend, to be your colleague, and to stand side by side with you and support Spokane County. You guys are the light. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Semi, and we're proud to stand next to you, friend. And we believe in you. We believe in this movement of we the people at the center. And so get out there, support Semi. Come see him next week. Go to birdforgovernor.com. Semi, thank you again for spending time with us today. Bless you, friend.
God bless
And
you.
we'll be talking to you soon.
See you guys.